I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible. Good to go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I believe it is visible, right?
Yeah, screen is visible. Uttamda, I should request you to minimize that small window which is appearing on bottom right. So there is
Okay.
a small minus sign that you can do. Yeah,
Done?
that's great.
Yeah.
Yes, you can
Now
also
everything is okay, right?
switch off your video if you can wish. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. That I can do that. Yeah. Now everything is okay, Amit?
Yes, everything is nice. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Very good morning to everyone. Okay, I heard that there are so many participants are there, more than 150, I believe. Yeah. So let's hope I can give my best so that you can understand about lithium is going on in the industry as well as a few basics on the subject. And I believe you have already completed one session which are most of an introduction of battery system, different battery systems. So I'll not compare the lithium ion cells with different battery systems. Rather, I'll give you basics of the lithium ion cell, not on the fundamental side, but most on the application side. Okay, because mostly how we can look those materials in terms of commercial application, on terms of its viability. Okay, and then present status and future goal of lithium ion cells specifically, and then how industry is shaping the next generation of lithium ion cells, and then finally I'll conclude. I'll give a brief because there is not much work has been done in India, but where India stand, what we have done till date, or what we are going to do in next couple of years, not as an industry by us, but as a whole industry. If we compare enter India, okay. So I'll start with the basic thing that is what lithium battery and what is lithium ion battery. So this is a confusing thing for many people. Even it was confusing for me for quite some time during my PhD itself. Uh, so let me clear why we called the present generation of batteries as lithium ion batteries and not simply lithium battery like lead acid battery or nickel cadmium battery. So lithium battery is the battery where we use pure lithium as a negative electrode. I believe everybody knows about cathode, anode, and electrolyte. I think that I believe that part has already been covered in the first session. So I'll assume that are already done. So I'll not go into details of the functioning of the lithium ion cells, but I'll give very briefs. Okay. So lithium in lithium battery. So it was started with lithium battery. So in like before 1991, so people use lithium as a half cell as a reference as an anode material, and they started building their battery. But there are a lot of issues came with the lithium. If you are using pure lithium, in that case, cycle life is very less. Okay, and then there is a formation of dendrite stability. So many issues are there. Then they move to a lithium ion battery, in which we are actually using graphite anode, lithiated graphite, where lithium is there but in the form of an ion. So this metallic lithium is not present in the system. It's always in the ionic form, and that is the reason it's called a lithium ion batteries or lithium ion cell. So advantage of lithium battery is it is having a little slightly higher potential. So at the current battery we have a 3.7 volt nominal voltage of 3.7. If you use a lithium battery, pure lithium battery, then the nominal voltage would be 0.2 volt higher. Okay. So the capacity of the cell will be more, the energy density of the cell will be more. but the disadvantage is cycle life is extremely poor and the cell is extremely unsafe because of the dendrite formation. Okay, I'll talk about dendrite formation later. Okay, so it will concern a lot of safety issues, and that is the reason people have moved from lithium cells to lithium ion cells. But the cycle is going to be complete once again in couple of years. The lithium battery is again come up because of all those advantages. So if we can solve some of its disadvantages, then we can go back to lithium cells, lithium batteries in future. Okay. So let's talk about our present system. Okay. So in lithium cells, there are four main components which are determining the electrochemistry. Okay. Apart from that, the fifth component, which is the peripheral part, mostly packaging and others. So the four parts are cathode, anode, electrolyte, and separator. So there are so many, the cathode and anode, both are the active material, those are the electrode material, and electrolyte is mostly for the ion transfer between cathode and anode, and separator is just separating the cathode and anode material. So there are so many materials if you listen to the or if you just do a literature search, there are so many materials are there. Mostly those are academically or the R&D products or like people are doing research on those material. But if you think if you look into the commercial material, commercial cells, so there are basically 3 to 4 grades of materials are available. One is the lithium cobalt oxide, which was first invented by Professor Godunov, for which he got the Nobel Prize last year. So the next material is lithium nickel cobalt manganese oxide, or prominently known as NMC material. So and the third grade is the lithium cobalt nickel aluminum oxide, okay, or call it an NCA material. Basically LCO, NMC and NCA, these are a similar kind of material. The modification of the all are modification of the lithium cobalt oxide. Then the second grade of material is the lithium iron phosphate. There are a lot of work is going on lithium iron phosphate. So basically we can categorize into three form. One is the LCO. LCO is mostly used for cell phone, and the NMC and NCA mostly used for EVs and other application, and LFP. LFP and NMC are quite competitive. So in some places people are using LFP cell. In some cases they are using NMC or NCA cell. So the cathode is not only the active material. This NMC are the active material. So apart from the active material, we also need to add conductive additive. So mostly people are using spherical conductive carbon to increase the conductivity of the electrode itself. Okay. Is there any questions? Like people are. There's some noise. Okay, fine. And this active material and the conductive carbon need to bind using a binder, because we prepare a slurry. This is a coating method. I thought I'll put the preparation method, but I just neglecting that part. Then similarly in anode, we have the natural graphite or synthetic graphite that act as an active material. There is another set of material which you might have heard of, the LTO material, lithium titanate. And similarly here also we use conductive carbon to increase the conductivity, and the binder here is used this SBR, styrene butadiene rubber, and CMC, cellulose based cellulose, carboxymethyl cellulose, the combination of this, and this is a water based solution. And the third one is the electrolyte. So electrolyte contains three parts. One is the solvent, one is the salt, and the other is the additive. So additive could be n number of additive people are using. So purpose of additive is to improve a particular property. So let's say if you have to improve the thermal property, okay, the cell should perform better at a higher temperature. Then we have a different set of additive. If we have to increase its ionic conductivity, then we have a different set of additive. Okay, but at least the VC, the vinyl carbonate, and the I think what is it? PS. Yeah, I forgot the full name of PS. Okay, so that additive is used. That is the basic additive people are used for almost all of the cells. And most common salt is lithium fluorophosphate, LiPF6, and the electrolyte is EC-DMC, EMC. Sometimes it is a mixture of EC-DMC or mixture of EC-DMC, EMC. And the separator, which is also very crucial because the entire electrolyte is soaked within the separator. So and the separator should be porous enough to transport those ion salts or solvated ions, and it should be unporous enough, or it should be it should separate the cathode and anode. There should not be any particle transfer between cathode and anode, so that it should not short circuit. There's also a this tri-layer PE/PP separator is it's also very useful for the safety purpose. This P specifically used to add a safety feature on this lithium ion cell. So what happens if there is any kind of short circuit and the temperature rises beyond 120 degree, then P is supposed to melt and block the pore, then there will no ion transfer. So we can effectively shut this entire lithium ion cell internally, and that is a huge safety related improvement. Okay. If we don't use P, then at least one safety related mechanism we are ruling it out. Okay. So let's compare about some of the common system, lithium ion system. Those are very common, this NMC and LFP. NMC and NCR belongs to similar class of material, so it is all coming from this LCO. And the LFP is slightly different, the class of the material is slightly different. In case of NMC, this cobalt and nickel is the active redox couple. So it's changing this redox from cobalt. In case of cobalt, it is changing from +3 to +4 state, and in case of nickel, it is changing from +3 to +4 state. To stabilize this nickel and cobalt, if we add more amount of nickel, the crystal is not stable. To stabilize this, we have to add manganese or aluminum. If we add manganese, then the material is called NMC. If we add aluminum to stabilize the structure, then it's called NCA, lithium cobalt oxide. But manganese and aluminum are not active, so they are only helping to stabilize the structure. Okay. In case of NMC, the capacity is the material level capacity is around 155 to 200. Currently, it is 200 and 220 also. The present day NMC and NC. Yeah, in case of LFP, it's mostly single metal system. So this is lithium iron phosphate, where iron is the active redox couple, and it is having a theoretical capacity of around 175 milliampere hour per gram. So, but when we make the entire cell, so it is against, let's compare it against graphite. Then in case of NMC, it will come as a 3.6 to 3.7, and in case of LFP, the nominal voltage comes around 3.2 to 3.3. Energy density of NMC cell is around 200, more than 200, and it is crossing 250. In case of LFP, the energy density is quite less, almost half of it, 90 to 120. Energy density per liter, this volumetric energy density of NMC is around 700. In case of LFP, it is around 300. And the cycle life of LFP of NMC cell is more than 1000 to 2000 we can get in case of only pouch cells. But most of the cylindrical cells, it is coming around 1000 to 1500. And in LFP, it is more than 2000 to 5000 we can get easily. So cycle life is definitely better in case of LFP cell. And in terms of safety, NMC cells are, it possesses this fire hazard, it can catch fire, but LFP cells are relatively safer. Okay, it will not catch fire easily. In case of NMC, basically density is high, so in a small cell we put lot of energy. So there, if there is any short circuit or anything happened, then all the energy is supposed to convert it into thermal energy, and that causes this is fire or the fire related issues. But in case of LFP, as the energy density itself is less, so it is relatively safer. So this is a representative graph of NMC and LFP. You can see this NMC is it starts potential is starting from 3.6. Okay, this is standard charge discharge potential plateau at CY5 rate. So the nominal, so you can see that it is gradually decreasing. So you just so it is against lithium. So nominal voltage is around 3.9 volt. Okay, and in case of LFP cells, it is 3.5 volt, but it is quite stable, and that is the beauty of the LFP cells. So LFP cells is very much stable. The plateaus are very much stable, and its performance are, there's no gradual changes in the performance. The LFP cell dies mostly due to electrolyte failure. Then there is another set of chemistries that is on the anode side. Okay, and these are competitive at present. It's quite competitive. This is graphite and LTOs. I believe you might have heard about LTO cells a lot. So in case of LTO cells, again the cathode material is either NMC or LFP, but mostly people are using NMC cells. And in case of graphite, it is definitely, it's mostly graphite, but we can use LFP also. So I'm comparing the performance of graphite and LTO against NMC cathode. So graphite having a theoretical capacity is around 350 milliampere hour per gram, and in case of LTO, it is almost again half of it. Voltage is against lithium, it is 0.2 volt. Okay, and in case of LTO, it is 1.55 volt. Lower is better because final voltage of the cell is cathode minus anode. If your cathode voltage is 3.9 volt, you just 3.9 minus 0.2, it will come around 3.7. If it is 1.5, again, if you minus 3.9 minus 1.5, it will come around 2.4. So the cell voltage, cell nominal voltage of the final cell is going to be less. If you are going to use LFP, then again it is going to be even lower. And hence the energy density is also less. In case of graphite, the energy density, if you use NMC cell, then again it will be like 200 to 250 watt-hour per kg. In case of LTO, the energy density started from 660 and it can hit at max 100, but mostly it is in the range of 80 to 90. Volumetric energy density is also very low. In case of graphite NMC, it is 700. In case of LTO, it is around 180. But the LTO having a huge advantage in terms of cycle life, safety, and rate capability. So you can charge and discharge the cell at 10C rate. Where in case of graphite, we can charge or discharge less. I mean, charge we can't do at 1C. It has to be less than 1C. But discharge you can go higher. Even 1C is okay. But in case of LTO, it is like 10C charge and 10C discharge is like it can support. Okay, 10C means it will charge in 6 minutes. And cycle life also, it is tremendously high. It is like 6,000 10,000 cycles. That is the minimum we are getting. With LTO cells, graphite cell struggles after 1,000 cycles. And safety, it is quite safe, okay. Extremely safe, I'll say, in compared to graphite cells. Again, if you just look at their standard charge discharge plateau, you can see in case of graphite, it is close to zero. Close to zero means close to lithium. Okay, will be against lithium. It is close to zero. That means it behave very close to lithium. So if we charge or discharge at a higher rate, then it could attain the same kind of performance as lithium. Okay. Yeah, and in case of LTO, you can see it is quite flat, and the charge discharge plateau is around 1.6 volt against lithium. Now, if I just compare these three kind of cells, that is NMC, LFP, and LTO. In case of NMC and LFP, those are the cathodes. So I am comparing those cells against graphite. In case of LTO, the cathode will be the NMC. Okay. So if we compare this three class of cells are available in the market. You can use it for your for whatever the application you think of. Okay, starting from EV to the storage. Let's compare. If I have to make 1 kilowatt hour battery pack using these three different chemistries, okay, then what could be the size of the battery pack in terms of volume? Okay, so the NMC, which is having highest energy density, you can see this 4.3 kgs, the weight of 1 kilowatt battery pack. Sorry, so here it is like not 1 kg, it is 1 kilowatt hour battery pack. Okay, so if it is 1 kilowatt hour battery pack, so the weight of the cell, so only the cell weight, so there will be the peripheral part, the connections, and the packaging, everything that will be extra, but I am only considering the cell level. So the cell weight of NMC cell will be 4.3 kg. Compared to LFP, it will be like 10 kg. Compared to LTO, it will be like 14.3 kg. So that heavy. In terms of volume, it will be like 1.4 liter. In case of LFP, it will be like 3.3 liter, and LTO, it will be like 5.6 liter of the battery pack size. So you can understand how different. Okay, although they have a different safety level, different cycle level, but the energy levels or energy densities plays also a very major role while we are designing any battery pack for any applications. Now we can see what are the different kind of applications are there for lithium ion cells, okay. And what kind of requirements are there for different cells. So we can broadly categorize all the requirement or all the application in three categories. Basically, electric vehicle, EVs, energy storage, stationary energy storage, ESS, and consumer electronics. We can divide all this category into various parts, like electric vehicles could be divided into like passenger vehicle, two-wheeler, four-wheeler, heavy vehicle, and energy storage also, like grid storage, then telecom tower, stationary storage for home application, and consumer electronics also, like electronics. Okay. So there's a lot of noise. And consumer electronics, we can divide into, like, let's say portable electronics, power tools, and other applications. But it is broadly we can categorize in these three. So you can see that for electric vehicle, the energy we require maximum energy density, because the space requirement is very crucial. And for energy storage, for stationary energy storage, the space requirement is not that much. So we can have this requirement of energy density is the minimal. But again, consumer electronics, the space requirement is maximum. Power density is again for EVs, power density is maximum. Cycle life wise, energy density for ESS we record maximum energy densities. For fast charging is again for EV we record a fast charging as well as discharging. For consumer electronics again fast charging and discharging slightly requirement, but in case of energy storage the requirement could be less. Safety wise EV we require the maximum safety. Reliability also, this is maximum reliability is should be maximum in case of EV and energy storage. For consumer electronics, if the reliability is slightly less, still it should be okay. So extreme operating conditions. So in EV, the operating conditions are extremely harsh. Consumer electronics also, the operating conditions are extremely harsh. But in case of energy storage application, operating conditions are not that harsh. We can manage the operating conditions. Cost wise, in case of EV and energy storage, it is very cost sensitive. But in case of consumer electronics, as the cost of the battery is not that much percentage wise, so you can compromise is the cost. So if it is slightly costly, still we can use it. And that is the reason in most of the our cell phone we are still using lithium cobalt oxide, which is the most costliest material. So now you have seen that, okay, the application side, what kind of requirement, and also what are the advantages and disadvantages of all the three class of material. So you can do a match and marry of all those three chemistries with the application, and you can find out which one is the suitable cell or suitable chemistry for is different of a specific kind of application. Okay, I put it for you so you can do your assignment and you can do it for yourself. Now look at what is the present status and what is the goal forward for lithium-ion cells. What we can expect in next few years. Okay. So the energy density, present energy density is 2.250 watt-hour per kg, and the expectation is 350 to 400 watt-hour per kg. That is US DOE targets, not the target from India. Energy density, volumetric energy density, currently it is 700 and the target is 750 to 800. Cycle life at currently it is slightly more than 1000. It should be more than 2000 to 1000, mostly for NMC cells. The cost currently it is slightly less than $200 per kilowatt hour. But the target is for $75 per kilowatt hour in the cell level and $125 per kilowatt hour in the pack level. It should charge at a faster rate. Currently, we can charge at a 0.7 C and discharge at 1 C. The target is to charge at 2 C and the discharge at 5 C. Safety should be improved. So if I broadly see what are the goals are, then it's mostly we need to increase the energy density. We need to improve the fast charging capability. We need to decrease the cost. We need to increase the higher cycle. We need to increase the cycle life, and also we need to increase the safety. So we'll discuss one by one all those four or five targets. Okay. First, energy density. So energy density is nothing but voltage. If you just multiply voltage with capacity divided by what parameter you require. So like if it is a volumetric energy density, then divide by volume. If you require gravimetric energy density, then divide by weight. That's simple. And what is voltage? Voltage is nothing but the difference between the potential cathode and anode. And capacity is nothing but how much free lithium we can store within the system. Okay, so that is the capacity and that is the voltage. So now we is voltage. We can increase the capacity. How to increase the voltage? So like either we can use a higher voltage cathode, or we can use a lower voltage anode, Or in case of capacity, we can increase a higher voltage cathode, we can increase higher voltage anode, or both of them. Okay. And the other option, we can reduce the dead mass to reduce the total weight to reduce the denominator. Okay. So if you see what are the promising materials are there for in case of high voltage cathode and for all of them. Okay, for the high voltage cathode, we have lithium nickel phosphate, which can go up to 5.1 volt. Okay, lithium cobalt phosphate, which can go 4.9 volt, lithium manganese oxide, which can go up to 4 volt. And in the we are almost at the bottom. The graphite, it is 0.2. The lowest possible is metallic lithium. Then we can get the 0 volt for this for anode. In case of high capacity cathode material, we can use nickel rich NMCs, which is like 811. So like 80% nickel. Currently, we are using 30% nickel, 30% manganese, 30% cobalt. From there, we have moved to 60% nickel, 20% cobalt, 20% manganese. From there, we can go even higher, 80% nickel. I'll talk about this on next slide. Okay. And we can use silicon anode. Okay. So silicon anode having a higher capacity. So we can increase the energy density by that way. And reducing the dead mass. So inside the cell, there are so many materials are there, so many components are there, which are not actually contributing to the storage of lithium, but it is only supporting, like conductive carbon, binder. We can reduce conductive carbon, we can reduce binder, we can reduce the separator thickness, current collector, and other thing to reduce the volume and reduce the weight, so that we can increase the energy density. So there are several options are there to increase the energy density. So if we imply any one of them, so there should be we can improve some other properties, but we can also decline some of the properties. So there is a trade-off, huge trade-off. So if we use high voltage cathode, so then there will be cycle life and extreme operating condition. We are going to compromise on that. Cycle life will be, we cannot operate at a high extreme operating condition. Similarly, we have low voltage anode, same thing, cycle life and extreme operating condition is going to hamper. If we use high capacity cathode, then we'll improve in terms of cost, but again, cycle life and fast charging is going to be hampered. In case of high capacity anode, mostly for silicon, again, same cycle life and extreme operating conditions are going to be hampered. Okay, so those are few basic few advantages of disadvantage, or like this is the path in which we can achieve higher energy density, but at the same time we have to compromise with some of the parameters. But eventually we need to solve all those issues to improve an high energy density. Now see how this high energy density material is playing a big role, okay, and how it is going to change in future. So at present, we are somewhere here. Okay, so earlier this result is of 2016. Okay, this is BMW. They have done a presentation, so there they have presented this one. So earlier people are using NMC 111. 111 means like 33% nickel, 33% cobalt, 33% manganese. Then they have moved to NMC 622, that is 60% nickel, 20% cobalt, 20% manganese. This is against carbon. So you can see that energy density we have gradually increasing. Okay, cost is decreasing, energy density is increasing. So from there, we have almost reached here 811. There are few companies who have already commercializing NMC 811. So you can see that gradually we are decreasing the cobalt content and increasing the nickel content. So cobalt is the costliest. So, and that is the reason we are reducing the cost. And if we increase more amount of nickel, the capacity is going to be increased, so we can increase the range or we can increase the energy density. But again, I told you, if we can if we just increase more and more nickel, then the stability, cycle life, and the harsh operating conditions is going to be hampered. But eventually the target is there that we can go to solid state battery, in which the safety is going to be improved significantly, and in between we can use silicon carbon. People are also using silicon carbon, and then finally we can use lithium. So again, I told you at the beginning that we can complete the circle. We started from lithium battery to lithium ion battery, and then again to lithium metal battery, to improve, to actually complete the cycle, and to reduce the cost as well as increase the energy density. Okay. So just look at the silicon. Silicon is 10 times higher, the energy density 10 times higher than the graphite. Okay, but it has a very poor cycle life. But still people are using, if you see most of the present lithium ion battery manufacturer, they are using 2 to 5% of silicon. So it's improved around 5 to 10% of the energy density. But there are few startups worldwide like Nexion, Amprius, 1D Material. They are promising that they can use 8 to 50% of silicon in their anode, so which is going to improve the energy density tremendously. Okay. Then the lithium metal anode. So just look at, this is the standard electrode of any cells. Okay, so we have current collector, copper collector for anode, then anode material, then separator, cathode current collector, cathode material, and this aluminum color collector for cathode. So if you look at their sizes, okay, thickness. So copper current collector around 15 micron, anode thickness is around 150 micron, separator is around 20 micron, cathode thickness is around 150 micron, and similarly aluminum current collector around 20 micron. This is a ballpark number, the number could vary. Okay, this is how the cell is fabricated. Now, if we use lithium coating instead of this graphite anode, so from 150 micron, we can reduce to few microns, like to 1, 2, or 5 micron. So we can eventually reduce the thickness by 40%. Okay, so that we can increase the energy density tremendously. Okay, around 40% energy density can be increased, and the nominal voltage is also increased by 0.2 volt, which is around again 5%. So you can see around 50% we can jump if we move from present day lithium lithium ion cells, or we can just replace graphite with lithium. But the problems are lithium is highly reactive. It's react with electrolyte. It reduces the cycle life, and due to this, there is a huge problem of this formation of dendrite. Okay, so I told you I'll explain about dendrite. So this is anode and this is cathode. So what happened in case of like fast charge? That time lithium started depositing on the top. Okay, and the next lithium which is coming from cathode to anode, this happening during charging, and it's forming, it is depositing on the top of each other, and it's form a small spike of lithium from anode to cathode, and it's forming an internal short. Okay, so this is connecting anode and cathode, and due to this internal short, this cell can go into like it can be short circuit internally, and it can go into thermal runaway. This is huge safety risk, and that is the reason at present we can't use lithium metal. Okay, or we can't do a high charge in case of fast charge in case of graphite. But eventually, if we use LTO, then we can do the high fast charge, or else if we can use some other kind of material, other kind of electrolyte. So yeah, so that is like presently there are many people who are using on lithium metal anode. Okay, and they are either optimizing their anode formation, or they are using solid state battery. I'll come to solid state battery at a later stage. Okay, so now see that if there are few reports which were claiming that they are started using lithium as an anode, and this energy density is almost double. It is more than the whatever the target was. The target was 350 to 400 watt hour per kg, and thus replacing anode, replacing graphite with lithium metal, they can increase to 500 watt hour per kg. So you can think that your vehicle range is going to be doubled with the same space. Now the other problem is, apart from this energy high energy density, the other one is the fast charging. Okay. So what is the problem with fast charging? That's, I told you one thing already, that is the dendrite formation, particularly when the weather is cold. Okay, and and the cathode when the weather is cold and we are doing it at very fast charge, then what will happen, whatever the lithium is coming from the cathode side, it will start depositing on the anode. Okay, and it's forming the dendrite, and which causes the dendrite formation, which causes the failure of the cell. And the second part is the heat generation. So fast charge or fast discharge means you are withdrawing, or you are putting more current, and we know the heat loss is I square R. So higher the current, higher the heat loss. Okay. Yeah. So now I just show you how this fast charge is going to play, how this temperature is going to be the bottleneck for the fast charging or fast discharging. Okay. So we have done a test in which we have charged a cell at different rate, starting point 0.5 C charge and discharge to 2 C charge and discharge, and we measure the temperature at different position. Okay, so in case of 0.5 C charge and discharge, we can see that maximum temperature rise from the room temperature is it rise up to 3 degree. Okay, so let's say the temperature of the room is 25 degree, then it could hit, the cell temperature could hit up to 28 degree. When we are going to 1 C, that the maximum temperature is 6 degree. When it is 1.5 C, the maximum temperature is 10 degree, and it is 2 C, the maximum temperature is 12 to 13 degree. So let's say in warm weather in summer, let's say in Delhi, where the temperature is 40 is very common in most of in majority of cities, particularly in summer, it's a 40 degree, and if you're charging or discharging at 2 C, then your maximum temperature of the cell could hit 55 degree. And consider if the weather itself is 50 degree, then your cell, you are going to expose the cell at 65 degree. And believe me, the cells are not stable at 65 degree. If you are exposing the cell at beyond 60 degree, then there will be a huge cycle life reduction. Okay, the cells is not going to last longer. Okay. Then the third point will come on the terms that is the cost of the cell. Okay, so there are two ways. One is the material cost, and the other one is the processing cost. So the processing cost, there is a gradual work has been going on throughout the decade, and it helps to reduce the cost, which is mostly related to processing, the scalability and all. So that is the reason people are starting with the gigawatt hour battery pack. Even not only the 1 gigawatt, the larger, like huge production facility, so that the benefit of the scale they can get, and they can reduce the cost. But the material, you can see the 40% of cost of the cell is coming from the cathode, and the most costliest part is the cobalt. cobalt is like $80,000 per metric ton. In compared to lithium, it is like 4 times, and the amount of amount of cobalt we are putting is much more compared to lithium. So that is the most costliest part in the electric vehicle. Another, how industry is coping up with this one. See, the Tesla is the most famous EV maker in the world. Okay, so in 2009, 2012, their model, in that they are using this NCA 18650 NCA cell. They are using 11 kgs of cobalt per vehicle. And now from there they have moved to 4.5 kgs of cobalt per vehicle. And it is not like they have reduced the battery pack size. They have reduced the cobalt content. Okay, currently it is 2.8% only. Okay. Earlier it was I think around 10% cobalt they were using. Okay, and Elon Musk has promised that in the next generation of vehicle, they are going from now it is 3%, they are going to be cobalt free. So that is going to improve the cost. Okay. And this is not only the cost, okay, there's also a lot of environmental issues and conflicts. So the famous saying is, if the necessity is the mother of invention, then the conflict is its father. So all the cobalt, majority of the cobalts are located in the Congo region. Okay, and there's a lot of conflicts are there, and that is also a reason people are moving away from cobalts. Okay, then in terms of safety, so safety is mostly related with the electrolyte, because the electrolyte is volatile, it is combustible. This ECDMC, it can catch fire. So once we come out, or like we can leave this liquid electrolyte and we can adopt the solid electrolyte, this is going to change our batteries forever. Okay, and I believe that is the next big thing in the lithium ion cells. And there are so many work is going on, and the most majority of them is this Japanese collaboration. They have 23 companies and 15 universities come together to form a joint venture, and they are working on the solid state batteries. And this is, I believe that is going to change the market forever. Okay. At present, the problems are this, why you can't use solid state battery at present. At present, it is not up to the mark. Mostly it is the ionic conductivity. Ionic conductivity is very poor in case of solid state batteries, solid state electrolyte, whatever we are using at present. So you can see this liquid electrolyte, which is around 10 to the power minus 2 Siemens per centimeter square. Okay. Where it is like significantly low at room temperature. It will improve if the temperature is high. So I believe for us, it could be like we can achieve a good performance with solid state battery in India, because our temperature is slightly more. But in case of European and Japanese, the temperature is really cold. Okay, so they might adopt solid state electrolyte at a later stage. But we have to work on the solid state electrolyte. No one is going to make a solution for India. We have to do it for us. So if you look the industrial trend, so you can see that mostly people are using silicon-based anode. Okay, so this is like this is one survey which compile all the work or the startup or the companies what they are doing. Like there are 170 works or patents or the field they have compiled, and the majority of them are using on silicon-based anode and solid state batteries. And I believe that is the next big thing, silicon-based anode, because this is going to give a quick boost to the energy density. Okay, and solid state battery is the ultimate goal. And apart from that, in the 66%, there are people using lithium metal batteries, fast charging, ionic liquid, low cost, cell design, and many other things. Okay. So, and finally, I just want to, very less time. So I just want to focus on this particular part, that is reduce, reuse, and recycle. Okay. So cobalt and lithium are the most costliest component of the lithium-ion system, and at present only 2 to 5% of cell are recycled. Okay. Mostly for EV, this is a norm that it has to recycle, but for consumer electronics, at present it is ruling the market. Consumer mostly it is not recycled because we just use, and like who is going to send it for recycling, and the system is not yet established. Okay. But in case of, let's say, lead acid battery, it is like this recycling thing is very much established. Almost 95% of lead acid battery is recycled worldwide. But the thing is, like, there are 3 million electric vehicles are there on the road. What will happen when they are going to be retired? So that has to be recycled. Okay. So with this, I just want to give an assignment. I'll give everything. It is not like you have to do it at your home. But yeah, you can do the calculation. So let's say if I have a 1 kilowatt battery pack, and if I want to extract, let's say I'll be able to extract the 100% of the material, then how much we can extract out of it. Okay. So I'll give some information. So that, let's say there are several kind of material. Let's say we assume that NMC material, and that is the 622. That means 60% is nickel, 20% manganese, 20% is cobalt, and the capacity is around 120 to 180 milliampere hour per gram. Okay, of this material. And the average, so we can take the average is 170, and voltage is around 3.6. Okay, then we can do all the back calculation. You can do the calculation and you can come up with this number. Okay, that how much mole will be there, and then finally how much material we can extract if we recycle 1 kilowatt hour battery pack, which consists of NMC 622 and graphite. Okay, so we can get lithium of around 115 gram, cobalt is around 200 gram, and nickel, mostly it is nickel, it is around 600 grams of nickel, and 180 grams, around 200 grams of manganese, and around 1 kg of graphite. That is what we can get if we recycle 1 kilowatt hour. You can do the maths once again, and you can use it for LFP cells. You can use it for NMC11 cell and LCO cell. How much cobalt, nickel, manganese, and graphite you can get out of this battery pack. Okay. Now I'll finish this one with this last slide, in which I just want to say where India stands at present. So in India, there is no cell manufacturer yet. Okay, no one has done yet, or no one has started cell production in India yet. But yeah, there are significant amount work has been done in the battery pack, particularly in the last 3 to 4 years. Most of the OEMs, so EV makers, they have built their own battery packs. Okay, starting from Ather, starting from Mahindra, starting from Bajaj. Okay, they all have their own battery pack. So like battery pack, we are not importing. Okay, we are designing it here in India and we are using it. This Exide and Leclanche, they have built a JV. I think very recently, Leclanche is the technology provider as well as the cell provider, and Exide is making battery pack here in India. Amar Raja is also working with IIT Madras, and they are building battery packs for EVs and other applications. The Suzuki, Toshiba, Denso, they have invested $170 million in India for the first stage of lithium-ion battery production, not cell production, battery production, that is for EV application. and that is already in progress. Okay, and apart from this big name, there are so many small and medium enterprise. They are entering into the lithium ion market and producing battery packs for EVs and ESS, energy storage application. But if you look at the cell manufacturing, the we are at a very nascent stage. This only ISRO and SICRI, they have developed a technology to produce lithium-ion cells, and they have licensed this technology to various partners. And the VHEL, they have started their R&D facilities to produce lithium-ion cells. They have also brought the license from ISRO, and they have collaborated with the LIPCOIN. This is an international consortium to produce lithium-ion cells. Okay. LIPCOIN and WHALE, they are going to produce lithium-ion cells in India. Tata Chemicals has also announced to produce or set up a 1.7 gigawatt hour plant for cell manufacturing in Dholera city in Gujarat. And the Rasi Power, which is again, this came in the news that Rasi Power is going to set up cell manufacturing in Tamil Nadu. Apart from that, there are several other companies or startup. They have promised to set up cell manufacturing in India in next couple of years. Okay, but all of them are at very early stage, and due to this corona pandemic, all the plans has been delayed a lot. Okay. In terms of metal manufacturing, there are only couple of news. Himadri Specialty Chemical, they are saying that they are producing anode materials for lithium-ion cells for quite some time, and they are exporting it. That is mentioned in their website. And Epsilon Carbon, they have recently announced that they are going to produce anode material for lithium-ion cells. There might be other player, but those news are not public. Okay. And yeah, there is no one which is saying that they are going to produce cathode material or the cathode material or electrolyte or the other thing. But graphite, we have a decent source of graphite, so it is the low-hanging fruit, and it is definitely good to produce at least graphite in India. Okay. With that, I am done with my presentation. Okay. If you have any questions and answers, I will be happy to answer those questions. Hello.
Hello, Uttamda.
Yeah, I am.
Yes. Thank you for the talk, first of all. It was quite insightful. Now I open the session for question answers. If there are any, let us have a quick round of question and answers, please. Participants are requested to ask any questions if they have.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, you have talked about solid electrolyte
Yes.
or solid state battery. You have shown that
Yes.
the next big thing is in ionic conductivity. I'm a beginner researcher in this topic, so I want
Okay.
to ask how can we um, overcome this problem? I have also studied few papers, and there is also problem about resistance because it's solid interface. So,
Mm-hmm.
you elaborate to some points on this?
So you see that this is not a like easy task. Okay. So this is by thermodynamic itself. It is saying that, or by the that if it is a liquid to solid, if you're moving from liquid having a higher ionic conductivity, solid will have a less ionic conductivity. So that is by so that is by virtue it is there. But there are many material which can improve the ionic conductivity. Okay, and the work is going on. I don't have a clear answer that okay, this material will improve the improve the ionic conductivity. But there are a lot of work is going on in this field. And the thing is, we don't have to, earlier, even whatever the ionic conductivity we are getting right now, that is also not the case 10 years back. The ionic conductivity, to attain that kind of ionic conductivity, we have to heat the entire system over 100 degree, which is not possible. But now at 60 degree and 70 degree, the ionic conductivity is quite comparable with the existing liquid electrolyte. Okay, so either there is an option we can just heat up the cell slightly. Okay, anyway, our temperature itself is 40 degree. We can consider the 40 degree in the average temperature, so we can heat up the cell by another 20 degree, and we can use those things. Or we need to find a better material which can improve the ionic conductivity slightly. Talking about the interface, yeah, there will be an issue with interface. So in case of ionic conductivity, it is not like a simply layer to layer, layer by layer. So there will be a mixture, like this electrolyte will be like it could be solid, it could be gel. Okay, it could not be a pure solid. It could be a gel type of thing. That is what.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a question in my mind. Can I ask?
Yeah, yeah, please.
So, by using nickel lithium ion battery, so lost of E waste to suppose lithium ion is E waste or it is normal waste? That battery is E waste or normal waste?
So at present, it is e-waste, but it should be categorized as a different. So at present, people are discarding this lithium-ion cell as an e-waste. Okay, but it cannot be categorized as a lithium e-waste because it can. There are a lot of uses are there in which we have thrown the material, thrown the battery with e-waste, and it caught fire. Because in other cases, if the PCB or the screen or the other thing, it doesn't contain any energy, but lithium ion cell contain energy. Okay, if we short it, let's say you've thrown a charged battery, okay, and it's short circuited, it will caught fire. Okay, and for EV, and it is like an mandatory for India also to get this FAME subsidy. It is mandatory to recycle those batteries. You cannot discard those batteries. You cannot dump those batteries in the landfill. It has to be recycled. But for consumer electronics, those things are not there, but eventually it will come.
Sir, any reuse recycle process? Suppose e-waste in India is developed. Suppose there's so many in India, there is huge e-waste is generated. So
Mhm.
that reuse of that of e-waste to some future. Any in your idea, in your suggestion, and if you are attending so many
See,
webinars,
see, see, there
so
are two things which is happening. Okay, one thing is the reuse. Reuse means I skipped one slide. First, let's say for this EV, the requirement is very stringent. Okay, but once you see that okay, it has deteriorated, let's say to 80-85% of its performance. Now you need a vehicle which is having a 60 km of range, but let's say it's reduced by 80%. So I think it will be like 45 km. Okay, it's reduced to 45, and then you don't think that that is a you can use that, like 45 kilometers not enough for you. Okay, going to office and coming back 40 kilometers not enough, 45 kilometers not enough. You can use that battery. It is not a dead battery. Still, there is a lot of juices available. You can use that battery and you can use it for stationary storage. Okay, Once the stationary storage, you see that, okay, entire juice is gone, then from this stationary storage, you can use it, you can recycle it. Once the battery pack size is bigger, then it is, then there is a, people can recycle it. Okay, because recycling a big battery pack, you can get lot of material. But for a small battery, people are not taking, okay, this is my battery is a very small mobile cell battery. Okay, I can throw it. Who is going to like, so this depots are not available here. No one is going to come to you to collect the battery. You have to go to, let's say 10 kilometer or 20 kilometer, or you have to send it to someone, and you'll get some 100 rupees. You have to pay like 80 rupees. Okay, for sending. And, okay, rehne do bhai. It's okay. So that mentality is going to change when we have a dedicated like this recycling unit is very much common here and there. Okay, like now lead acid battery, no one is throwing lead acid battery, even if it's a small one. The shopkeeper itself is going to buy it from you. Okay, maybe 120 rupees, 300 rupees, 400, but it's okay. But they are going to buy. Okay, you're not going to. No one is throwing lead acid battery, but it takes time. Okay, it takes time. So lithium ion battery also there is a possibility, or it is not possibility, it is going to come, because again we don't have source of lithium, we don't have cobalt, we don't have nickel. So we have to rely on the recycled material. And India, I know, I'll not take the name, but I know there are several people who are doing the recycling in India.
Thank you for information.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, any more questions? Pushpendra Kumar would like to ask anything? Yes, please go ahead, ask your question. You don't need to raise your hands.
Sir, can you able to hear?
Please be little louder.
Sir, can you able to hear?
Yeah. Please ask your question.
Sir, good afternoon. Sir, regarding that charging and discharging, you are told that based on the temperature, the charging and discharging time was vary. For 1.C and 1.5C and 2C, the rising in temperature is differs.
Yes.
It means that if the temperature is varies, then the charging and discharging time will be changes.
No, I didn't say that. Okay, so what I told is, like, you have a cell, you can charge at 1C. Okay, so then what should be the maximum temperature of the cell? Okay, anyway, if you are charging at 1C or 2C, so I believe you know the definition of C rate, right?
Okay.
The C rate is nothing but at what speed you are going to charge the cell. If it is 1C, that means you can charge the cell, charge or discharge the cell in 1 hour. If it is 2C, that means you can charge or discharge in half an hour, 30 minutes. Okay, so if you are increasing the rate, okay, that time you are going to reduce the time. So at 1C, you are going to charge or discharge the cell in 1 hour. In 2C, you are going to charge or discharge the cell in 30 minutes. So it is independent what is the temperature of the cell. Okay, but the thing is now we are going to extracting more current, and the heat, this energy heat generation is I square R. Now earlier you are, let's say, extracting 1 ampere, now you are extracting 2 ampere. Okay, then you just multiply the resistance, you know the resistance of the cell, then you just multiply 1 square into resistance. Then you know the 4 times is the heat generation. Okay, if the 4 times is the heat generation, then the temperature is going to, and whatever the temperature we are measuring at the end, so that is the surface temperature, but the internal temperature could be even more.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any further questions?
So if there are no questions,
Hello.
I think yes.
Hello, sir. Yeah. Am I audible?
Your voice is breaking.
Hello.
Yeah, please continue.
Yes, my question is regarding like, the charging and recharging of batteries. Normally, it is said that you charge it completely, then discharge it almost completely. But in case of automotive vehicles, I don't think like people may recharge when it reaches around 30-50% like that. So whether it will be going to affect the life cycle of the battery, like it is said that it is like possible, say around 3,000 or 5,000 cycles recharge is possible with so if it is charged in between frequently, how it is going to affect the battery life?
Okay, so if you're saying that if you're charging frequently, I didn't heard one sentence. So you told that you're recommended to charge and discharge fully or like not fully. I don't get that point.
Fully. My understanding is like if it is charged completely, then discharge it almost completely. Then,
Okay.
then only
Yeah, got it. So that is the convention in case of nickel cadmium batteries. Okay, or mostly for lead acid batteries too. They have a memory effect. Mostly it is very prominent in case of nickel metal hydride and nickel cadmium battery. So if you charge, let's say if you're charging only to 6, you're discharging up to 60%. Okay, and from there you're going to again charge it to and you are continuing that one, then the cell will forget that it has another 40% energy left with it. So it will consider only that is the thing. So that is called memory effect. But in case of lithium ion cell, there is no memory effect. If you charge, let's say 40%, okay, and discharge it and continue with that, it is perfectly fine. There's no issue. Even it is recommended in case of lithium ion batteries, okay, that you do not charge to full and do not discharge to full. Okay, it is most ideal that if you can charge and discharge your cell between 20 to 80%, then your cycle life is going to be improved a lot. Okay, anyway, you are going to get a more number of cycles and cycle life is going to be improved a lot. The battery health is going to improve a lot. Yeah. So there is no problem if you do a frequent charge and discharge. It's not going to hamper the cell.
Okay, thank you.
You can apply this for your mobile phone. I am doing that. I'm not charging to like 90%, more than 90%. I'm not discharging more than 20%. If you have time, you can discharge. You can charge it. It's fine. But don't put your cell at higher voltage for longer time. That actually going to kill your battery faster.
Okay. And about mobile phones, my one another doubt regarding the laptop. Actually, like, is it advisable to keep it in the charger itself and use, if it is possible, at home, so that the number of cycles can be reduced? Like battery will be bypassed.
So it is not batteries bypassing. First of all, if you charge the system, okay, in case of laptop, the thing is really difficult. Okay, but it has to be continuously on. Another thing is like if you see that most of the cases, what happened, the battery of the laptop used to die very fast. because we never think to discharge the unplug the battery. Okay, even if it is you do plug and unplug, still it is going to last for 3 years. If you're not doing, if you're just plug it on, still it is going to last maximum 3 years. Okay, the thing is why it is. If you're putting it in charge condition, okay, if you plugged in your laptop charger, that means it is all the time it is at the highest SOC. Okay, let's say 4.2 volt is the highest voltage, so it is maintaining at 4.2 volt, and at the highest, at the higher voltage and the lowest voltage, all the parasitic reactions are maximum. So all the degradation happen, electrolyte oxidation is happening at higher voltage. So if you avoid that higher voltage, you can extend your cycle life. And if you can reduce your if you just put it at maximum voltage, then it is going to hamper your cycle life. I believe I don't know if you might have seen that in most of the new laptops, okay, they are giving an option that you can charge up to a certain voltage. So like in my laptop, I have an option like I don't know the name, battery saver, not battery saver, battery performance improve or something like that. There I can say that okay, the battery is going to charge up to 70%, 60% or 70% only. So in my laptop it is up to 60%. So even if you do a full charge, it will do up to 60% only, so that it is not going to expose my cell at the higher voltage, and that is going to improve my battery life.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much for this nice information.
You are welcome.
Any more questions?
I don't think there is more questions are there.
I think, yeah, I think if there are no more questions, we will stop here. Thank you, Dr. Uttam. It was, the session went really nice. We also had good interaction with participants at the end of the session. With that, I would like to thank you again, and thank you, participants. We'll now take a break, and we'll come back with the third session at 2:30 p.m. today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for joining the session. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.